Yes, shalom. Giving honor and praise to the creator of heaven and earth. Want to sit there and take this time now to talk about a particular matter. The matter is in reference to feelings, character, and so forth and so on. One of the first things to talk about, and I thank the people who took the time out to listen to this, is that it is apparent that the life, the safety, the well-being of black children and black men are not important. Whereas the safety and well being of black women is considered to be more important. You understand? Now, the situation in which if you are inside of a relationship that's not working out and you decide to stay inside that relationship and there are no children involved, that's not a bright idea for yourself. If you are involved in a relationship that's not working out and there are children involved, you cannot just at that same token view it as if there are no children involved, because it's not just about you at that particular point. It's about the future. It's about the people that came from him, meaning with her, and the child that was produced. You cannot, brothers and sisters, no disrespect intended, substitute for a parent no more than you can substitute for a child. You cannot bring a child to a mother or a father who's lost his or her child and say, this isn't really a replacement for this child. Parents might sit there and state that, but deep down, you really can't have a true replacement for such. So is it the same in reference with parents and dealing with children. If the marriage structure was fashioned correctly, which it is, but done correctly among us as black people, there will be a lot less broken families. The issue of the broken families is the reason why you have a lot of the other problems that occur. You can trace the fact that there's so many black females who are lesbians due to the fact of no father being there. You can trace the fact that so many black females feel that a black man ain't worth the ground he's walking on or doesn't need to be respected in her life due to the fact of a father not being there. You understand? You can trace the fact that a son feels animosity toward women due to something of reference with his mother. So my point in mentioning all of this is the fact that we can't be selfish when you have children involved in it. Now, I've been personally in several relationships, and majority of them didn't work out. Thus, I'm single today. And one of the things to let it be noted and understood, my heart was broken or the sister's heart was broken, but after a while that heals up. But it's not the same way once it comes to dealing with a child. That child's heart is not going to be healed up as you would as a grown man or as she would as a grown woman. So some men unfortunately take the route of, I have a new relationship, so I'm now going to put the child or the children that I already have on the back burner. Some women do the same thing. Well, I'm in a new relationship now, so my children just going to have to understand. No, they don't. They do not have to understand your new relationship. It is not a wise thing to try to force that on your children. When you have children, you are no longer deemed, quote unquote, truthfully single. You may not have a mate, but you're not single because you still have your children to be responsible for. So, children did not come here by themselves. That has to be emphasized, because as it is emphasized on the other point, that children did not ask to come here, that's very true. Another point to emphasize is that children did not come here by themselves. A wise thing, if you and the mate is not able to get along, then separate, but you do not sever or separate the ties between the child and the mother or between the child and the father. Because all you're going to do after a while is have a child that's going to distrust you. You're going to have a child that's not going to hold you in the same esteem, unfortunately. And so this is very, very important to let it be noted and understood. Now, on the other end, you got them home wrecking type of women who know that a man has a child and will sit there and wonder, oh, you're still with the baby's mother? No, I'm not with the baby's mother. I'm single. But still sit there and wonder whether or not she can be that number one woman in your life. When there's a daughter involved, you're not the number one. It's what it is. The daughter's the number one. And so responsibility has to be noted and taken care of first. You do not replace the new with the old. You don't do that. You understand? And so once it comes right down to it, you have some who unfortunately may feel that if they have children, that their life does not have to stop. You know, they make a statement such as on the lines of saying, well, some people think because you got children, your life has to stop. Yeah, certain things in your life, fool, has to stop. You can't do what you was doing before you had the children, because the children are looking up to you as a role model. So no, you cannot do the same thing as you was doing before. And you cannot sit there, as stated, get a new mate and then throw that on your children. Like, okay, this your new father now, this your new mother now. You can't do that. No more than a parent who lost his or her child said, okay, well, here's the cousin, that's your new child now. That's not a adequate substitute. So once it comes right down to it, it's about not being selfish. It's about being responsible and accountable outside of, well, I got a job and I pay bills and you're under my roof. I remember, no disrespect intended, the saying, as long as you under my roof, you have to abide by my rules. So are you saying then, no offense intended, when I'm not under your roof, I don't have to abide by your rules? Do I get to disrespect you and dishonor you and not follow your advice because I'm not under your roof? No, that still doesn't change, especially if you are into the Bible, because it says that the men listen to the elders at the gate. It speaks about that. So that right there just goes to show you, brothers and sisters, that there's always somebody that's going to be able to counsel and give advice to somebody else. You never outgrow that. So it's never a situation as, well, as long as you're under my roof. Do you know, no offense intended, where that came from? Slavery. As long as you're in the house, nigga, you best listen to these rules. I'll put you outside with them field niggas. So if you want to stay in this house, you best abide by my rules. That is slave doctrine. That's not parenting. So we have to a certain extent, change the mode on how we raising our children, because we are losing yet another generation and it's not fair to them. You understand? Let's look at it. You read about Mary McLeod Bethune, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, Josiah Henson, Frederick Douglass, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. You talking about all Robert Smalls. You talking about all these great people. All of them left a legacy. Who are the people who did not leave a legacy? As it says in the scriptures, their name of the wicked shall rot. That's why we can't recall or do a roll call on the coons and the Sambos. We can't do a roll call on the wicked people. The house Negro, if you will. He or she is not famous. Frederick Douglass is famous. Harriet Tubman is famous. Josiah Henson is famous. Gabriel Proctor is famous. Nat Turner is famous. Malcolm X is famous. And all these people have passed away. But one of the things to let it be noted is they had a nationalistic and a family-orientated understanding. And that's very important. You see, some people think, oh, that's just, the old way. Oh, I'm doing me now. My kids got to understand I got to do me. You know who feels like that? Children. Children feel, well, I just got to do what I got to do. My parents got to understand it eventually, because after all, I'm just a kid. I'm just a child. But what do you as a parent say to the children about you just having to do what you got to do and not taking in regard to the children? Do you say this is what we adults do? When you have a child, you have to change your style of how you do things. You cannot do things the same way. Now, on the other end, you have, no offense intended, the make believe relationships. You know, those kind where the people front and act like, everything is okay when you know good and well it's not. When you can sit there and he never representing her, he and her never have any pictures by him. And by the same token, she has no pictures by him. And it's fake. It's not real. But what happens is people settle for certain things. You understand? When a father has a daughter, his mind generally is supposed to change. Like, no, I can understand why a woman will say she doesn't want to settle for just the old okie doke. That right there is ridiculous. You should not just want to be settling for that. You understand? And another thing, and I'm not coming on here as a psychiatrist. I'm just coming on here as a brother, as a friend, as a companion, and just speaking about certain things that I've seen. And the family structure, brothers and sisters, is what was broken. And if you want to be the clown and the fool and the buffoon and have a baby here and there and not stepping up to the plate, you're ridiculous as a man or as a woman. Because what happens a lot of times, and it's not the gender bashing, what happens a lot of times is usually, oh, the father wasn't there. The father should have stayed there. But now let's take it outside of that, for instance, even before the lady became a mother or the man became a father. What kind of caliber of man was he, or what kind of caliber of woman was she? You understand? Were they compatible? Were they together mentally? That's very, very important to let that be noted and understood. Because you cannot sit there and try to work on something and think something's going to work. Well, maybe if we have kids, everything will become better. Not necessarily so, you know. And another thing to sit there and conclude this particular matter on is about respect. A lot of times, what people need to sit there and know and understand is that respect is very, very important, as we all know, and have an understanding of such. And if you have nationalism and respect, it's impossible at the same token to sit there and be comfortable being selfish, thinking, oh, I got mine, and well, later for you, and so forth and so on. That right there is not a good way to be. That way right there is not a good way to act and carry yourself. So, in concluding this, a lot of times we just have to sit back, look, and consider and become serious one with another. You understand? And with that, shalom.